Around a month and a half ago, I told you guys about a very exciting mod on its way to Fallout 4. That with the Fallout 4 multiplayer mod, what has now become more dubbed as Fallout 4 MP. At the time, it seemed like not many people were aware of this project at all, despite numerous videos being up on the mod author's channel and a lot of progress being made. We saw things like dialogue sync, so you could actually talk to an NPC and other players on your server could hear it, combat together, as well as just actually seeing players walk around next to you, with one of the craziest things being settlement building in tandem, which was just mind-blowing, and all of that basically being done by a singular developer. Well, since that original video, quite a bit has happened with the mod, some general updates to it, a full rewrite that is in progress, but also a Discord server has been set up where you can play the Fallout 4 multiplayer mod for yourself, and I actually did so for the purposes of this video. And even further, the entire project is open source, so if you just want to try it out or edit it for yourself. In this video, we're going to talk about some of the major updates around the Fallout 4 multiplayer mod and actually look at some other very interesting or exciting mods that are on their way to Fallout 4. If you guys enjoy the content, you can get subscribed. Later this week, we do have the Xbox Showcase event, and QuakeCon is just around the corner. It seems almost certain we'll hear something or see something new from Bethesda at one of those. And of course, we'll be covering it in detail. But then just looking more directly at this Fallout 4 multiplayer mod, it was actually a pretty surreal experience to play it for myself. And considering I'm sure many of you will want to test this out, I will have a link to their Discord server down below, as well as their GitHub, where you can download the most recent public build to try it for yourself. As far as how exactly this works, it's actually really simple once you have everything working. You'll need a clean Fallout 4 in the sense that you can't have any other mods installed and you can't have any DLC or Creation Club content. This of course won't be permanent, it's just due to the current build of the mod, it is a requirement. And in fact, in the future, it is very likely that you will be able to use this mod with other mods installed. But from there, you'll have to do some port forwarding to host your own server, then very simply launch their server software, install the mod itself on your game, and then once you're in game, by just the press of a key, you'll connect to your own Fallout 4 multiplayer server. There's a little config file where you actually set which IP you're connecting to. So alternatively, by pressing this very same key, you can connect to somebody else's server. And just like that, after much help from the devs to get this all working, I was actually able to connect to one of the developer servers and I was playing Fallout 4 in multiplayer. As far as the functionality of this one, it's very buggy, it's still in the early days and early stages, but I was there with another player standing next to me running around Fallout 4. We could hit each other, I would get damaged from him, and you could also kill that other person. A lot of the stuff is subject to change, but the way it works right now is if you kill somebody else, it'll just reload their latest save and place them down in that location. At points, things were somewhat laggy. Me and the developer were an ocean apart from each other, so that's likely to blame somewhat. Although one of the very handy parts of this, using the F1 key, which is the server connection key, at any point you could just press that key and it'll resync the entire world and you to that other player's server. So if you ever found things glitching out, just hitting that key would typically fix it, and it was very handy and you didn't really lose any progress or anything. But at the end of the day, I was playing Fallout 4, talking to NPCs with somebody else there. Somebody else who could see what I was doing, watch what I was doing, that I could fight with, that we could run around with and be side by side doing so. Now as far as combat goes in this one, technically you can fight other enemies, but named NPCs are the only ones that are synced between players right now. So while we could both see Codsworth, if I spawned down a bunch of random Brotherhood soldiers, it wouldn't do much. And as such, doing things like questing becomes quite difficult. But one thing you can do, which was pretty wild to see also, of course, was that settlement building mechanic. As you could see another player building up their settlement and me being affected by this. So overall, it definitely is still in its early stages. This is not perfect Fallout 4 multiplayer, but I would like to remind you, the first video of this as a proof of concept or demo went up just 5 months ago. This project has come a long way from basically a one-person or two-person development team in a very short amount of time, and I have high hopes for where it's going in the future. Which, speaking of which, as far as where this is going in the future, talking to the two developers, right now they are currently rewriting the mod in its entirety, as well as the server software. They're already in progress on this, but more or less, now that they have gotten several of these features working, they are rebuilding it from the ground up in a more polished way, so it'll get rid of a lot of those glitches, and it'll just improve the quality of the experience overall. And more or less the plan is, after rewriting it, they will gradually add in all of the fundamental features of Fallout 4, syncing them between the player server as well as the players connecting to the server, until a point where you do have fully fledged Fallout 4 co-op. You could host a server, other players connect to it, and you could play the full game together. And although that really is the main scope of the core mod itself, with the rewrite they are doing to the server side of things, they also do have plans to make it just a lot easier to create plugins for this, and that is one of the main inspirations for this rewrite. So let's say you are loving the Fallout 4 multiplayer mod, it should be relatively easy, and they are planning this already for you to make plugins adding on certain things. Almost think of them as custom mods specific for a Fallout 4 multiplayer server. Their plans are for Fallout 4 multiplayer, that being the mod, to act as a framework for others to build on top of. And based off what I've seen thus far, and again, in what a short time frame it's been from what we've seen thus far, I am very excited for this. I feel like we could be on the cusp of something massive as far as Fallout 4 in general, but in particular with Fallout 4 modding. Just think of, in maybe a year or so, you could just casually launch up your Fallout 4 multiplayer server and play Fallout 4 cooperatively with your friend, or even something like your brother. And then if you want to get even more custom, jump onto somebody's private role-playing server with a few custom plugins they created for it. There really is so much potential with this, and they're off to a really good start. Although speaking of, they are recruiting. As I mentioned before, there's really only been 2 people working on this thus far. All of this is done by just 2 people. And as such, they are seeking help going forward, which will significantly expedite the process. People with knowledge of C++ or Python are sought out, as well as just being knowledgeable about reverse engineering or networking in general. I'll have a link to the Discord server down below if you want to try this out for yourself, or just find somebody to play with you, or if you want to help contribute to this. I'm really excited for this one. Hopefully I'll have more updates in the coming months, but outside of that, we also do have several other pretty interesting mods on their way to Fallout 4. I know there'll be some questions. There is a different Fallout 4 multiplayer mod, kind of. It was porting Skyrim together to Fallout 4's engine, but there's no real updates around that since its initial announcement in this video. But of course, there is a Fallout multiplayer game that does exist, and some people like, some people don't necessarily like, but at the very least, I'm sure we could basically all admit that there are definitely some cool things in Fallout 76. Some cool content, whether it be some of the weapons, armors, or other things created for that game, and well, mod authors are bringing them to Fallout 4. As one of the first things we can see is the Redshift power armor. This is based off the communist power armor that was on the Atomic Shop, a microtransaction for Fallout 76, but now we have what I would say is almost a cooler, better looking version for Fallout 4, and of course, free. It's relatively simple, being an almost one-to-one recreation of this power armor, and of course this does have to be a recreation. They can't just port it from Fallout 76, they have to remake it from the ground up. But when you check out some of the custom skins they designed for this new version, it definitely gets me even more excited from what we had in 76. Even further, we have some pretty big updates around the 50 cal machine gun, this also being something recreated based off what we had in Fallout 76. This mod team with the Reclamationists have actually been attempting to do this with several weapons and assets from the game, and well, it looks like the 50 cal machine gun from Fallout 76, except this is a Fallout 4 mod. They remade the entire thing and it looks great. I'm actually really excited to use this one, and of course it's lore friendly, but also something that is just needed in Fallout 4's leveled list. As cool as the minigun is, having additional options is never a bad thing in this game. Another pretty cool one we got is the Benelli M2. We've of course seen other Benelli M2 mods for Fallout 4, but of course this looks old, aged. I actually really like this. I feel like it looks like something that would appear in a post-apocalyptic game, and I think some mod authors at points do forget that. I don't have a ton else to say about it. It just looks really great from a lot of these pictures. I love that dusty or dirty look. And at this point, I feel like with how saturated the Fallout 4 modding scene is, particularly with weapons, just having differences like this do feel particularly valuable at this stage in its cycle. Which, speaking of, another very unique mod on the way to Fallout 4 is Peace. Peace is effectively trying to overhaul certain aspects of Fallout 4, such as encumbrance, attempting to make it much more realistic or survival focused as far as how much you can carry with you. And as such, one thing that came out of this was a portable water filter, because it wouldn't be realistic for you to carry gallons upon gallons of water like hypothetically you would need to in Fallout 4. So as an alternative, you do have the portable water filter, which is simply a consumable that does take one dirty water and converts it to a purified water. In a similar vein, we also do have containers. This one I think is just kind of funny. For certain soups that you can craft in the game, rather than coming in ceramic bowls, they'll now come in Tupperware. And of course, after you consume the soup, you will get an empty Tupperware that you will use to create a new soup down the road. It's relatively minor, but if we're being realistic, probably would happen in a survival situation like we have in Fallout 4, after the fall of a society, but where a lot of that old world tech is still readily available for adventurers. Although that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video. A lot of great content on the way to Fallout 4. In particular, that Fallout 4 multiplayer mod that I really think has the opportunity or the potential to be something huge. It's still crazy to me, not many people have picked up this story. You would expect a few articles like PC Gamer, etc. to be covering this, and hopefully down the line as we see more and more features or content get added to the mod, that'll start to happen. But again, with how much has been done thus far, I really think this has the potential to release in a fairly timely manner. And of course, Fallout 4 multiplayer with custom plugins could be massive. Actually, one of the craziest things we've seen happen in the modding scene in a very long time. As always, again, I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.